Hello and welcome to the PTA Global Interview Series. Now we're shifting gears a little bit here, but before I tell you about that, yes, my name is Dan. I am going to be the host. Very, very honored to have not only a legend in the industry, but my boss, Neal Spruce, on with us. Thank you, Neal, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. And I'm not your boss, we're partners.
Oh, there you go. My partner, Neal, on this call. So thank you for that. Now, why did I say shifting gears? If you've been tuning in, we've been interviewing co-founders, collaborators, including Neal, when we talked about nutrition, talking about, how we put together our education, who we are, where we came from, and so forth. We're shifting gears a little bit here. You're going to see some of this throughout the rest of 2020, where we're going to start talking to very successful leaders in the industry. Because if you're like me, early on in your career, you ask yourself the question, where am I going to go with this? Or, what do I want to do? Do I want to specialize? Do I want to, I'm really good at sales, so I'm going to work my way up the sales ladder. Do I want to manage a club? Do I want to go into teaching? Do I want to be an entrepreneur? Do I want to create something? Do I want to build a product or build education? Well, the person that we're talking to today has done all of that. And, I think what we're going to really focus on is his entrepreneurism. I think I said that right. And because when you hear Neal's story, you're going to see that there's just a whole lot of things that he's been involved with and what it takes to be successful in that. So for those of you tuned in, you're muted, right? So if you have questions, and I hope you do, and I hope you ask them, just put them in the question panel, all right? There are some handouts. Make sure you download them. We have some special offers in there from .fit and from PTA Global. You'll want to download those handouts. There's no exam for the webinar, so just tune in, sit back, and enjoy yourself. So with that, Neal, if you could please share with our listeners here a little about you and your journey in fitness leadership in the fitness industry.
Yeah, so I am your classic accidental businessman. It was not anything I wanted to do. I do not have, and even though Dan says that, and of course the people that have followed my career will say that I am an entrepreneur, and I'm not. I'm just driven and passionate about what I wanted to do. Once I escaped that, difficult childhood that I had, and I discovered nutrition and sports, and I realized how nutrition was everything, and exercise was sort of second to that. Obviously, you can live without exercise. You can't live without nutrition. But I was also, a sports guy. So, from football to bodybuilding, and knowing nutrition was, the root to everything that happens in life. I became very passionate about that. And the problem was that nutrition was one of those fields that was really just mangled. I mean, you got 100 answers to the same question, yet there was only really one at the time that's right. So that was my big thing. So I set out to set the course correct, and set the right answers out there, and really spent my life doing that. And that was really about it. In order to do that, I really had to start my own companies. I was lucky enough to work with a lot of great companies, between Gold's Gym, which gave me my break. I was one of the top bodybuilders in the country for 8 of my 18 years of competing, and they gave me a platform to be able to, tell the world the truth about nutrition and exercise, because of course the holistic approach was ours. And that really was what it was about, and that was it. So I became, and then, to be able to go beyond the Gold's Gym brand and all the other brands, I had to start my own business. I didn't have a choice, because I really wanted to save the world. I made that decision. It saved me. I mean, sports and fitness saved my life. You grew up in, life like I grew up, with motorcycle gangs, and I was your true American outlaw. So, getting out of that was the only thing that saved me was sports and fitness. So I made that commitment to do the same thing. And in order to do that, I really had to start my own business. So that was more passion driven than it was entrepreneurial. I've got a lot of friends, Dan, that are entrepreneurs. I mean, like, I call them serial entrepreneurs, right? Where they can't do anything without trying to start a new business. They might have 20 going at one time, right? So for me, it was just accidental. I had to do it because it wasn't being done right anywhere else.
Wow, outstanding. So in that journey, and I've had the opportunity to hear you speak to this in depth, and so I'm going to come back and circle around to some of the things I've heard you say that I'd love for our listeners to hear. But considering where you started and having worked with and still working with literally thousands of personal trainers, fitness coaches in the industry, and watching their career trajectory, helping them with their career trajectory, what would you say? Why would you advise someone to take things to the next level, to pursue a career in business ownership or management or leadership? What are some of the things that you've come away with, and what, I'm really glad I did that, and here's the reasons why you should do that?
I think the most important reason is just, self-satisfaction, feeling comfortable that you're in control of your life. And, for me, no one can control my life. And I think now more than ever with COVID, I mean, we watch so many people's vocation being taken away from them. We watch the trainers just all gone, right? And so you need to being able to take control of your life so that no matter what, no one can tell you what you need to do or not do. You have control over that. So I think that's the reason you want to take your skill to the next level. So it doesn't mean that you have to own a business. In fact, I would argue that many of you that may be listening shouldn't own a business, right? Because there's a lot of complexities around that. But that just means that whatever you do, you have to try to be the best. So if you're working, you want to be the best. Even if you hate your boss, you want to be the best at what you do. And guess what? Someone else is going to take you. And that's going to keep going. You are now in control of your life because you are working to be the best at what you can do. And it doesn't mean that you're going to be anything other, you're not going to own a business and be a billionaire or anything else, but it means this, that you are an automatic leader. And people look up to people like that always work hard to be the best. So if there's one thing I can tell everybody, no matter who you are, just do everything you can to be the best at what you're doing wherever you are. And then leadership is just assumed. People look up to you. They feel good about that. That's leading by example, and it doesn't mean you're going to be the best, but you are working constantly to be the best.
Wow, great advice. And so in your journey, certainly at an early point in your career, you decided I am going to be the best. And I'm assuming it probably started with bodybuilding, and then into product development and so forth, and business ownership. Along that pathway, as you're growing in that pathway of leadership, of business ownership, of being the best you can be, can you think back and say, here's some mistakes I made, here's some things that if I could replay, push rewind and go back in time X amount of years, there's some things I probably would have done different, that maybe you can save some of us from making those same mistakes?
Yeah. Well, okay, I maybe this is going to be a little difficult because as you know, Dan, I'm a guy that never went to college. In fact, I never even drove by a college, let alone go to one, right? So, you grow up in an outlaw world. It's not exactly where you go when you finally graduate. So my mistakes are different. When I think back of some of the things, it'll be probably a little bit, the audience here is going to look around and go, wow, okay, that's unique. I mean, so my mistakes were, there was a time in my life where I was afraid to start my own business. What I mean was that I was making a good living as a mechanic after I kind of left that other life and everything else, and I made a good job there. I was one of the top bodybuilders. I had my own television show in San Francisco. I was a top bodybuilder. All this was going good. Little fish in a big pond, right? And so I could have opened literally, this business that someone wanted me to do. And if I had, and I always make this quip about it, one of my buddies, Jerry McCall, opened a Gold's Gym in Mountain View, California. I was living there in that Palo Alto, San Francisco area at the time, and they wanted me to open that, but I turned it down, and I wish I had, because ended up owning all the Gold's gyms in Northern California, and that's when Gold's was rising. Now, I was working for Gold's already part-time, doing seminars around the world, for them, but as an athlete. But I'm just telling you, so I was afraid. I was chicken because I didn't want to leave that comfortable life I was in, right? That was working really well. Took me a long time to get there, but I was working well. So that's mine. But I would say that you got to be careful about that for someone else to make that same decision, because that's a little bit different. But if there's one thing I could probably pass on to everybody is this. Limit the distractions in your life. I mean, the distractions that come in your life, whether it be the people around you that don't have the same self-interest. Self-interest doesn't mean that they're the same as you. It just means their values are the same as yours. You care about other people. You want to make a difference in the world. You want to do something that's special. Those are people with the same self-interest as you. And you surround yourself with them and lose the other people. What I mean by that doesn't mean you don't just turn your back on them. You just go ahead and talk to them, whatever you need to do, but you don't want to surround yourself with those type of people. And then limit the distractions. There's so many distractions today. There's so much noise going on around us. Limit those things into what you do best. Don't stop doing what you do best. And then it will kind of naturally evolve to what you want to do.
Wow, great advice. Thank you, Neal. And again, for the listeners out there, make sure you put your questions in. Use the question box, and we'll ask them, or as we go, or most likely at the end. So kind of coming back, being uncomfortable, getting out of your comfort zone, it sounds like was the first, because again, it's like, I know where I'm at. I know I've got a paycheck coming in. I'm feeling okay here. I'm not sure that I want to jump out and take that chance. Yeah. And then the second thing you mentioned is narrow your distractions. So stay focused, surround yourself with people with the same self-interest. We interviewed Brian Grosso not long ago, and he said, no matter who they are, no matter who the person is, whether it's someone you see on the street or the CEO of a Fortune 5 company, you treat everybody the same. You treat them all with respect. You be yourself. Some of them aren't going to like you. Some of them aren't going to align with you. That's okay. They'll get out of your way by default, and keep surrounding yourself with the people with the same interests. So here we go. We're hearing it again. Be yourself, be unique, and the people that are attracted to you are the people that you need around you.
And one other thing on that you can add to that, don't hold grudges. There are going to be people that you don't like, or you think, oh God, there's something wrong with that person. Don't hold grudges. Number one, they can change. Now, you can't, there's an old saying, you can't change the spots on a leopard. And to a certain extent, that is correct, right? But there are people that can, and there are people that need more input in order to get the right output. So don't hold grudges. You will never be a leader if you hold grudges. You will never be a leader.
Oh, very well said. Very well said. Thank God. That's why I still have friends. Very good. Thank you, Neal. Now, I had the honor, I think it was about 3 years ago, I believe it was in the winter, to traveling to China with you. And you gave a presentation to a packed house. And part of that presentation was when I first heard you talk about your personal 4 E's to success. And it was very impactful to me. I asked for the slides. I've kept them. I know them, not as well as you, of course. But I want to review them if we could. And I'd love for the listeners to hear you speak to those 4 E's, the 4 E's that Neal Spruce uses to guide his vision, to guide his day, to guide his success. The first one was educate. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so I think let me just go back to kind of square one first, and everybody already heard it. We talked about that, my life, not going to college or any of those things, and living as an outlaw before I escaped that world, and got that done. So I had to, when I decided to save the world with fitness, which I really did. I mean, I literally flipped the switch when I was 24 years old. So I had to figure out, how am I going to do that, right? So I already picked nutrition and sports to do it, and fitness. So how I was going to do that? So the first thing that everybody needs to know before you even get to the 4 E's is take an inventory of what are your strengths? What do you have, right? In my case, I had self-confidence. I realized I had no fear. I mean, no fear of the unknown because you don't live in the streets. When you grow up in the streets like I did, you don't have, if you have fear, you're dead the next day. They smell it. You're done, right? So I had that, right? I also had a passion for my subject. So that's another thing you have to have. You have to have a passion for your subject or you're just not going to work hard for it. Let's face it, right? And then the next thing is work ethic. The thing is, what I knew is I'd never be the smartest guy in any room, but I will be the hardest working guy in every room. And those are the things that I set my thing. I realized that hard work can trump intelligence. So now let's get into those 4 E's. So I had to create these 4. I created this map I had to follow. And the first one was, obviously, I'm behind everybody. I got to educate because I'm way behind, right? And at that stage in my life, at age 24, you can't waste a day. So I told myself, I'm going to learn something new every day and apply it to my field. Now, that may mean I may learn it from the textbooks I'm reading and all the things I'm trying to do on the side, or it could also be going to a movie with my girlfriend. And I look at the message in that movie. It was the most profound message I ever heard. And I go, how do I make that? How do I take that struck me and make that work in my field? So learn something new every day, but apply it to your field. At this point in your career, in your life, for everybody that's listening to this right now, it needs to be applicable. It needs something that you can do. So find something every day. And if you do that, can you imagine what happens over 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 years, 50 years? Hey, listen, I'm 68 and I was 24 and I've never missed a day. So keep that in mind. A lot of good things. You get smarter, number one. And number two, life is fun. Because every day, work should never be a chore. It should be a place to grow. So think that. Okay, so that's educate. What was the other one? What's the next one?
All right. Well,
Let's see if you remember number 2.
Oh, I've got it. And let me attest to that. I've been in Neal's office many times, and it's his desk and his table is always covered with material that he's reading. And this isn't novels. This is science. This is research. This is studies, phenomenal stuff. So I can attest to the fact that he is constantly reading. And a lot of us have heard learn something new every day, but how often do you hear apply what you learn? So very, very important. And those of you that are watching right now with the camera, when you watch Neal smiles, anybody else seeing the Clint Eastwood smile in there? He definitely has the Clint Eastwood smile. You know he does.
For sure. That's why I bought a ranch. That's why I have horses. I ride. I even dress like him.
I know you have his hat. So number 2, educate, number 1. Number 2, exemplify. Tell us about that.
Yeah, and that's an easy one. I mean, exemplify, you know what? Whatever you're selling, you better believe it. This isn't about anything other than that. If you're passionate about something, it's easy to sell it because you're not selling, you're telling the truth. And truth shows through, and people will buy into you. You have to walk the talk. You don't just talk about what you do, you live your brand. You have to live it. And those are the things that people finally get. And it's a very infectious attitude. You know, when you're leading by example, everyone's trying to be that way, or at least you attract the people that want to be that way. And now you've got this, contingency of people that really are aligned with you. So you do have to walk the talk. And that's what I mean by exemplify. You don't just jump to something that you want to sell to make a living or whatever you want to do. But exemplifying, it means that you are walking the talk. You're living the brand. So and passion shows through as truth. You'll never ever have to sell anything in your life. I have never sold one thing in my life. I have just explained the facts, the way they are currently, evidence-based facts, not something you found on the internet through Google, but evidence-based facts. And I will lay that out, and I live that. My family lives that. My home is a microcosm of what I'm trying to do in the world. Everybody knows that. Both my sons are professional athletes. I didn't ask them to be that, but they turned out that way. Okay, And my daughter, she works full time in all of our businesses, and we're very successful early on with singing and so forth. So I'm just saying, it'll show through as truth. You'll see. And then what happens is it just happens all around you. So you've got to wear your brand if you want to be successful.
Oh, brilliant. And we say that so much, and we can't overstate in fitness, especially when you think about, I'm trying to help people adopt healthier behaviors, healthier eating habits, healthier movement habits. Practice what you preach, walk your talk. And obviously, as Neal explained, it goes well beyond that, and it's going to be everything you do in life. And
I don't want people to think that, it's like, I mean, people go to restaurants with me back in the day and they would just be afraid to order until I did. You don't do that. I'll order a cheeseburger. I'll order a cheeseburger if I want it. I'll order fries if I want it. I know how to handle all that. Okay, because I'll make it up the next day, or I'll have it. I take my multivitamin mineral every day. I got it all covered. So it's just like, this isn't about just being psycho about everything. It's about just, are you really true in your message? Just be true to your message in your life.
Yeah, brilliant. And I remember the first time, and then several times I've heard Neal say that. I've never sold a thing in my life. And I'm here to tell you, those of you, if you don't know who Neal is, he sold a lot of stuff in his life and just wildly successful. But exactly like I said, he hasn't sold anything. And that is definitely the way to view whatever your product or service is. You're not selling it, you're just demonstrating value, you're telling the truth, and this is how it can change you or help you. That's not sales, just be honest. So love that. Now, the third E, this word, we've all heard it. It's kind of got a little bit of a sharp edge to it, okay? It's got a sharp edge to it. And I'd heard it, I think we all have many times, but after I heard Neal talk about it, this is a true story, I started repeating it, and now my wife says it all the time, and she's coaching our son with this word all the time. Quit talking about it and execute. So tell us about execute, Neal.
Yeah. So execute is, you have a plan and do the best you can with it. Limit all the distractions and follow it. So you have your vision, you have and I always tell people, you need a 1 year and a 5 year. So first of all, you got your vision. That might be the big thing that you're trying to do. And of course, mine was too big. And that's a mistake I made. Save the world through fitness. When I say a mistake, it's not, I lived through it, but I'm cursed because I've got to stick to it now, right? I said it since I was 24. So I'm cursed. The world isn't quite saved yet, but I'm getting there. But the whole idea is that you've got your vision, then you do a 1 year plan and a 5 year plan, and you execute on it. So which means that your 1 year could change within the 5 year, right? Depending on how things went. But the bottom line, you got to limit the distractions around you in order to do that. That's the biggest part of being able to stick to a plan and executing. And I'll tell you, my partner in all my businesses, Mark Mastrove, which most of you probably know who he is. Like, he is definitely the most famous guy in the fitness industry, most iconic. No one's done what he's done all the way around. I'm just lucky to be his partner. But we always talked about that. We would say like this, and because people always say, well, how come we're giving everybody what we do? And when we owned 24 Hour Fitness, we were partners and all these other, Gold's Gym back in the day. And I go, how come you're telling what to do? And I go, because we'll out execute them. It means I'll give you the roadmap. I'll give you the roadmap to my chair. I will take you anywhere you want to go, and I will tell you exactly how to get there. Because that's all that's going to do, if you're good at it, is make me better. That's what it's going to do on me. And then 2 is that I'll out execute you all day long. So that at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. So execution is the biggest part, is sticking to something. Write shit down and do it. That's what you need to do. And that's the big part. And then surround yourself, again, like we talked about, with people the same self-interest so you can execute. That's huge. You've got to make sure of that, all that. And then when you execute, you analyze what you've been executing. And that comes to the next one, which is?
Yes, which leads us right to evolve.
Evolve, right. If you don't evolve, you become insignificant. So everybody write that down. If you don't evolve, you become insignificant. Or You've stabilized in your life, and that's all you want to do. That's where you want to be, and that's okay. But we're talking about leadership, or we're talking about going to the next level or making a difference, then you have to evolve. But evolving isn't just evolving by going with the latest fad, jumping up on the internet and see what's going on, right? It is evolving in our business evidence-based. You stay grounded in evidence-based. That doesn't mean you have to be dry like a scientist and say, this is this, this is this. You can find better ways of expressing evidence-based protocols in everything that you do. And as Dan knows, there is never a time, I'm wired to every single major scientific outlet, and I get all of it before anybody else gets it. And that is something that I'm always proud of, is that I'm looking to where everybody's going to be, and I got to be there first. My good friend Wayne Gretzky, as you know, he always said that. He goes, and everybody already knows this, and I think every CEO has used this same term from Wayne. He goes, my success was, when people would ask, how come you were the best hockey player of all time? I'm not a hockey fan, by the way. I only became one because Wayne and I are good friends. But it was, he goes, how come you're the greatest hockey player of all time? He goes, well, he was humble. He always said, I'm not. But of course, nobody's even close, right? And he just said it's because I always went where the puck was going to be, not where it was. And he was going to get there ahead of it. And so every CEO jumped on that one immediately. We're going to be where everyone's going to, we're going to get there before they get there. So you need to know what's going on. You got to measure the current evidence-based information and look at the stuff that's coming out, put it together, and then describe it your way. And that's evolving, because you will become insignificant if you do not evolve. They will pass you up. And certainly it's not a secret to our success, but the success that we've had in all of our businesses is we were there first in everything, including the holistic approach, including nutrition and personal training and everything else, and which is why we have the humble successes that we have had. So evolve is number 4.
Excellent, excellent. So there you have it. 4 E's: educate, exemplify, execute, and evolve.
Yeah.
And if you ever have the chance to hear Neal tell the story live, it's even got more. So a couple of comments coming in. I want to just throw out to kind of mix things up here, and to remind you to type your questions. Ryan says, love it. Excellent words of wisdom. Thank you, Ryan. Indeed,
Thanks,
indeed.
Ryan.
That's why I wanted to make sure we shared it.
Yeah.
He also says, awesome advice, Neal. Thank you so much. I believe I saw some photos of you before with Rich Gaspari, Boyer Co., and Robbie Robinson. Does that sound right?
All my friends. Yeah. Yeah.
Very inspirational. He's also working on his physique and his business. Would like to be a body builder. Yep, yep. And he said, thank you for coming on today. Much aloha from Hawaii. I wonder if they're experiencing a heat spell.
What's that?
I said, I wonder if they're experiencing the heat wave over there.
Yeah, the temperature never changes in Hawaii.
That's true. That's true.
I spent a lot of time there.
So one of the things I wanted to make sure and tap on now, that the listeners out there have heard a lot of great advice. Some why to consider leadership. Some of the mistakes or things Neal might have done different early on, and maybe what he might have done differently looking back in hindsight. Certainly the 4 E's to success. That is all advice. That's certainly suggestions, recommendations, best practices, learn from my mistakes or learn from what I did right, which is what we want to hear. If I ask you now, advice specifically for those folks out there that say, I want to take that jump. I want to make that leap. I want to go on and move on to the next thing in leadership, in management, in entrepreneurs, and whatever it may be. What advice would you give them beyond what we just covered? Do you have any things that you want to let them know that you've learned that you're like, hey, listen to me, this is what you got to do?
Yeah, that's going to be a tough one for me because my plight was unique. I also married well. My wife, she supported me through all this, and she was actually the CFO of our when I owned NESM. Apex. She was always and then, she was the CFO for these big giant, fitness, some of the biggest fitness companies in the world. And, so I married well. So I was lucky on that part because I was the visionary. I would have lost every dollar. I would have given it all away. I'm trying to save the world and I'm trying to and everything else. But she said, well, you can't, your vision's never going to materialize if you don't know how to manage money and do all those things. So that's the first thing I would say. If you're going to start something, make sure that you understand how to manage money. But at the same time, do not let the CFO run the company because they will kill the vision because they're just trying to figure out how you make money and how you continue to make money, right? Or, not lose too much before you make money. So they have to trust you. So that relationship with a partner, best partner, Mark Mastrove, and I could keep throwing my wife in there too because she was a huge part of this. But Mark Mastrove, this is a business guy, he understands. When he first saw me speak, literally, I was still an athlete. He's looking at me and everybody else are a bunch of salespeople around the room. They're not even listening to me, but he's listening to me and he just goes, that's the guy, all right, that's going to do this for me. And then I learned so much from him and business about, and so it really is about partnering with the right person. So whatever you don't have, partner with someone that does have it, right? But if you're the visionary, don't let them kill that either. So that's the thing. Mark supported my vision in every way. He was distribution. I was the intellectual property. My wife was the financial side on our personal business before we all became partners with Mark. Now, of course, we've got, hundreds of CFOs, in different areas. But the point is that that's really it. Having a partner, someone that can really help you with the financial part of growing the business. And I think that's the big part. And then don't give up on what you do best. Don't try to pass it on to somebody else. If you are the rainmaker, you make sure you stay out in front as the rainmaker and then figure out financially how to support that until you start making money.
Wow, great advice. And again, having been over 4 years now, I've had the opportunity to work for you. I get to see this in action, and I've seen it. And I remember when when Neal first bought the company, I was talking to one of his leaders, and they said Neal has the Midas touch. Whatever he touches, it just turns to gold. I don't know why, I don't know how, he just does. And I've seen it. I've seen the give it away. And I've seen Christina, his wife, stepping in and saying, well, maybe this, maybe that, give it away. And you know what? We're killing it. We're growing by leaps and bounds. All of his businesses are growing by leaps and bounds because he's absolutely applying that.
Yeah, so but on that point, Dan, just to give you guys a little credit too. I mean, I get great team members, but part of this is a message to everybody listening. If you're going to be a good leader, you have to communicate properly. You just can't be that tough guy, whip your employees and, give them numbers they have to hit or any of those things. If you want to, listen, it might take you longer to get there or whatever, but guess what? I get to look in the mirror every day and always say, I did the right thing. You know what? And I'll tell you what, there's two things I fire people for. One of them is, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You got to fix it before it breaks. You got to be ahead of everybody, right? That's one. And the second thing is, I don't care what people think about me. I just got to get this done. You better care what people think about you. It matters because that's who you are. And that's a bad place to be in life, period. But there's just tough guys out there. There's leaders like that, and they're successful. Don't get me wrong. But guess what? That's no fun. If I have to be an asshole to own a business, I don't want it. So there's a communication level there. There's a caring. You care about people, they'll care about you. And that makes life very easy and comfortable, unless you're extremely greedy.
Wow. Again, nuggets, absolute nuggets for those of you tuned in or who are going to listen to this later, absolute nuggets. Now, After this interview and after this webinar, you will be receiving some emails or one email from us here at PTA Global, which includes a special offer from .fit, which, as you can see, Neal's wearing the shirt, one of the companies he owns, and from PTA Global on my shirt, another one of the companies he owns. So stay tuned for that email. And I want to wrap us up right now, Neal, and I'd like you to wrap us up. Again, I've heard you speak many times. You're very inspiring. You're very motivating. You've been there. You've done that. You didn't come up the easy way. So what can you share with our listeners to kind of take us home, inspire them to want to do more and to be more, but to do it the right way?
Yeah. And I think, we're all experiencing a very, very difficult time right now. It looks like we're starting to come out of it. So that's the good news. But this has been an eye opener for everyone, and for someone that like me who's been through everything. You can't even imagine the things I've been through, living the life I lived when I was younger, and of course everything else. You have this perspective on life that is quite unique, that you can handle anything that comes along. And I think that this is really a different time in the way we sort of look at ourselves, and how much we care about fellow humans, and how much are we willing to do for other people other than ourselves. When you and Dan, you've heard me say, when you grow up without a family like I did, then you make it out to the other side, which is an anomaly. I am an anomaly. Everyone I grew up was dead or in jail. I'm like last man standing in that group. When you grow up without a family and you make it out, you realize that it's not about your family, it's about all families. And I think that's the take-home message I would want everybody, regardless of your beliefs, your political beliefs, your life beliefs, your values. Everyone has something really good about them, and there's something that we can do to help them. That's why I always say fitness can save the world. People get fit, they get better. They get better mentally, they get better physically, and then good things happen. Okay. Sadly, the gyms are suffering right now from being closed and so forth. And I get that from close proximities. Looks like they're opening up right now. So that was, so whatever your view is, we just need to respect each other. And I think that, communicating properly, not holding grudges, just feeling strong about the future. Because let me tell you something, everybody needs to, I think my humble successes have come from one attribute: optimism. I look at life as a wonderful gift, and I look at it as I'm going to do the best I can to prolong that and keep that and pass that to others. But I couldn't do that if I was pessimistic. I've got lots of friends that are doom and gloom. Okay, I got plenty of them. Trust me. And especially now, it all comes out, right? There's no way you'll ever see that for me. I see the other side. I see, how do I take this failure and make it into a success? How do I turn that and make everyone I touch better? And how make the businesses better? We're all suffering. But if you look at things that way, you'd be surprised how you can pull yourself out of any kind of semi-depression or any of those things and start to do that. So that's my final message to everybody. And guess what? And listen, we don't exist without nutrition, so do it right. We exist less with bad nutrition, so just do it right. Our immune systems are completely reliant on nutrition, nothing else. We're dead without it. So obviously we're lesser humans with bad nutrition. So just at least pay attention to that as well. And now we've got a much better chance all the way around to be able to handle the things that we need to. And for the last thing I'm going to leave you all with is this. Start your legacy now. What do you want people to think about you today and the rest of your life? Whatever that is, work towards that. Be strong about that. I know that I want my legacy to be that he told the truth in fitness his whole life to give everyone in the world a better chance than he had. That's what I want mine to be. What do you want yours to be? Work on it every day now.
I have nothing to add. Thank you, Neal. That was wonderful.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you to all the listeners who tuned in. Thank you for your time. Very inspiring, very motivational, and keep doing what you do. 4
You too.
E's. Thank you, Neal.
Thanks, buddy.